How's it going, guys? Welcome back to Blake Check. If you're new to the channel, my name is Blake. It's nice to meet you, and I'm so excited to be back in front of the camera with you guys like this, making another video. If you've been following for a while, you'll know that my wife and I recently had a major life event. We had our first baby boy, and his name is Evan. He's adorable. Here's some pictures for you guys to check out. But as you can imagine, especially for those of you who are also parents, that has taken up a ton of our time and energy. So I did decide to take a little bit of a step back from YouTube in the meantime. But since then, you guys have continued to subscribe to the channel, like my videos, comment, and continue to watch my videos. So I really appreciate all of that, you guys. You have no idea how much that helps. But I figured what better way to get back into the swing of things than with an update video on our Volkswagen ID.4. Now, a quick recap, this is my wife's car. A few months ago, she traded in her Tesla Model 3 long-range rear-wheel drive for this Volkswagen ID.4. I made a bunch of videos about why we did that. I documented the entire delivery day process, all of that stuff. If you want to check that out, they'll be linked in the top right-hand corner of your screen and in the description below. But the SparkNotes version of that story is that this was just a better fit for our family at the time, and we already have my dream car, my 2018 Tesla Model 3 Performance Stealth Edition, so we thought we'd go ahead and diversify the garage by adding this electric SUV. So if you're interested in learning more about the 2023 Volkswagen ID.4, go ahead and browse the rest of the channel and see the other videos that I've made on it. Again, today we're just going to be focusing on our ownership experience. But before we do that, I want to show you guys some of the stuff that I've done to the car in the few months that we've owned it. So let's go take a look. The first thing we should probably discuss is the elephant in the room, or should I say elephant on the roof, if you'll pardon my dad joke, and that's this rooftop storage box that I've added to our ID.4. Most of you guys probably know that the ID.4 doesn't have a frunk, or like a front trunk storage area, which is really a shame. Most EV manufacturers have figured out a way to turn the space that would have been used on an engine into usable storage on their cars, but Volkswagen hasn't figured out how to do that or something, and instead, underneath the hood is a bunch of BS, honestly. It's like AC components and like windshield washer fluid. I'll let you guys take a look at it. But just a quick peek, because there's really nothing exciting under there, like I was saying. And it's really a shame because Volkswagen markets this car as a family vehicle, and you would think that families would want this extra storage space. So because VW couldn't figure out the frunk, I had to get creative with the storage solution, hence the roof box. Now, I posted pictures of the roof box as soon as I got it on Twitter, and it got some mixed reviews. A lot of people were saying that they thought it looked ugly, and they might be right. I think looks are subjective. I happen to think it looks okay, especially after I got it paint matched. I think it kind of ties into the rest of the car pretty well. And the good news is that because it's so small, I chose this size on purpose, it actually is really easy to remove from the car. So it spends most of its life mounted on our wall in the garage, and I only put it back on whenever we need it. And those are in instances whenever we need to take the whole family on a trip. My wife and I, our newborn son, and the dogs. The dogs will go in the back, so we can't use the back for stuff like strollers, baby bags, clothes for my wife and I, so that goes in the roof box. So I think that's enough about the roof box. If you're interested in getting a roof box like this for some reason, maybe you have an ID.4 and you're trying to figure out a decent looking storage solution, I'll have this linked in the description below. They are not a sponsor. I don't even remember the name of the company that I bought this from, and you would have to figure out how to get it paint matched if you want it on your own. I happen to know somebody that does automotive paint here in the Arizona area. I'll have them linked in the description below too if you live in Arizona and you want to get paint done like this, or really even any like minor body damage. He knows how to fix for a pretty reasonable price. He actually fixed my Tesla Model 3 Performance bumper whenever I got into that hit and run at the end of last year. So again, I'll have that linked in the description below for you guys to check out. So the next thing I want to talk about is the front reflectors. This is pretty simple. These are orange, but I just went ahead and wrapped them in this like satin black to kind of simplify the look of the ID.4. It's really just a lot of grays and blacks on the car, so I thought that orange just like stuck out. So wrapping it was a really simple and easy solution for that. The next thing I did was add these Mudguards to the ID.4 for all the rain that we get in Arizona. I'm being facetious. It doesn't rain here that often. Actually, monsoon season is coming up, so I think maybe these might get their first use here in a little bit, but I really added those because I think that it adds kind of just like a slight styling element to the ID.4. Otherwise, it kind of looks a little too egg-shaped. It still looks kind of egg-shaped, I get it, but I think that just adds a little extra flair, and it's practical because whenever it does rain or when we're driving in the snow, that helps prevent rocks, snow, ice, all of that stuff from splashing alongside the car. So that was really cheap and easy to do as well. I'll have that linked in the description below if you guys want to check those out too for your ID.4. Moving around to the back, the next thing I did, well, first I added this baby on board sticker, which I think is really cute. But the next thing I did was add this trunk mat to the back, which is really cool. I like that it's gray. That's a little different. And it has this hexagonal shape that traps dust, dirt, moisture, all that stuff. Makes it really easy to clean. So if you're interested in something like this, I think the company that I bought this from makes these for all shapes and sizes of trunk areas, but they're not a sponsor. And I have to be honest with you, I didn't like that it didn't have like a gap in the mat to access this handle to get to the underfloor storage, which is a bummer, but otherwise it's really cool and really affordable. So if you're interested in that, they will be linked in the description below as well. Moving around to the side, actually before we get to the interior, I added a little piece of PPF here because this is the place that you'll press in order to access the charge port. I don't like fingerprints and all that stuff, so that makes that a little easy, and it shows you where you should press so that you're not like poking your fingers around to try to find that space. The next thing that I did was add PPF to the B pillar here. This is kind of the place where you'll put your hands naturally in order to open and close the door. Again, that's a solution to try to prevent fingerprints from getting all over the place. I tried to put protective stuff over the areas that are often touched. So that was really easy to do too. As you guys know, I put PPF on the front of my wife's old Tesla Model 3 long range before we sold it. And so this was a lot easier. It's a really flat surface. And even if you have no experience installing PPF, I would recommend something like this. But before we look inside, I just want to point out that I added this edge guard to the ID.4. That was really easy to do. I'll have this linked in the description below. This wasn't ID.4 specific. This was just a really simple and cheap install to prevent damage from our car. Moving to the interior, as you can see, we have the car seat base here and our car seat that I added to the car. It's not permanent. The base can be removed. It's pretty easy. I also added this mat that goes under the car seat base that prevents the leather seats from getting damaged, and also acts as an extra barrier for like spit up and pee, all the baby things. I added this mirror to the back seat so that I can see baby Evan from up front there. Speaking of the front, let's move around to the front so we can take a look at what I've done up here. I did add these car mats to the ID.4. They're made by LazeFit. As you guys know, I am partnered with LazeFit. They actually are a sponsor, so I can get you guys a little bit of a deal if you want these floor mats for your car. They will be linked in the description below, along with a discount code that you can use. Last and certainly not least, let's hop in the driver's seat so I can show you two final things that I've added to the ID.4. The first is this screen protector. So I always recommend adding a screen protector to your car if it has a center touch screen like this one. This is an area that you'll be using almost all the time, every single time that you get into the car, so you definitely want to protect it. I'll have this specific screen protector for the Volkswagen ID.4 linked in the description below if you guys are interested, but I wanted to save the best for last, and that is the most recent addition to our ID.4, this VICSEED MagSafe air vent car mount. At the time of filming this video, you can get this mount on Amazon for $29.99 plus an additional 15% off, but VICSEED is regularly hosting sales, so you might be able to get it for even cheaper. Here's everything that comes in the box. Looks like you get a setup guide, some sort of VIP warranty card thing, an instruction manual, some extra parts, and of course the mount itself, which is really all you need. Putting it together is as simple as snapping the vent mount end to the MagSafe end, and then it's got two tighteners, one for the air vent end and one for the MagSafe end to keep it sturdy once you've positioned it to your liking. Twist clockwise for the vent mount end until you feel it's tight enough, and then twist counterclockwise for the MagSafe end. And that's all there is to it. So like I was saying, I can't stress enough how impressed I am with this VICSEED MagSafe air vent car mount. Like, listen to how sturdy it sounds whenever you just slap it on there. And then I just wiggle it around and like it won't move until I really want to pull my phone back off of there. And the best thing about this is that it will work with any car you have no matter what, as long as it has air vents. Hopefully it does if you live in someplace as hot as this. So I'll have this VICSEED MagSafe air vent car mount linked in the description below. Thank you to VICSEED for sponsoring this video. Let's go ahead and wrap it up. Now, the last thing I want to go over with you guys in this video, just briefly, is our ownership experience in the ID.4 over the past few months. Now, if you guys recall, earlier this year, my wife traded in her 2018 Tesla Model 3 long-range rear-wheel drive. We're looking for something a little more family-oriented, so we're looking for an electric SUV. We looked at all of the popular electric SUVs on the market, like the Ford Mach-E, we looked at the Hyundai Ioniq 5, the Kia EV6, and the Tesla Model Y, of course. But we landed on the ID.4 because it was the best value proposition for us, meeting most of our needs for the least amount of money. If you want to know more about why we made the decision to go with the ID.4, go ahead and browse the rest of the channel. I made a ton of videos about that topic. But as far as our actual ownership experience, like owning and driving the car on a day-to-day basis, it's actually been a really pleasant experience. I heard some pretty negative things about the ID.4 before we made the decision to go with the car, stuff about the software and the driving experience and all that stuff. I have to tell you that I'm actually pretty impressed with the software in this car. It's good enough. Like I said, this is a backup car, so we don't need it to do all of the really cool things that Teslas are capable of doing, and my wife really doesn't care about all of that stuff. And whenever we do want to experience those things, we still have the Tesla that we can drive. I'd also heard horror stories about the charging experience on the CCS network, specifically with Electrify America, and our experience again in that department has been really pleasant. We've never encountered a down charging stall, and the one time that I encountered a charging stall that was not operational, it was a new charging stall I found out when I reached out to Electrify America that just hadn't come online yet. So those were our main concerns, and fortunately they were all dispelled pretty quickly after just a few months of ownership. The main issues with the ID.4 came down to reliability and the service experience. So after just about a month of ownership, we found that the AC, the air conditioning in this ID.4, wasn't blowing air super cold, which when you live in a desert like I do, you guys can see the beautiful scenery, but it's also a really harsh climate. The temperature today is 113 degrees, so you need that cold AC or else you're gonna suffer. So whenever we found out earlier this year that the AC wasn't blowing really cold, I was like, we need to get this addressed right away. So I scheduled a service appointment and I took the car in, and I had to haggle with the service department, but ultimately they did provide us with a loaner, and they took the car and they had it back to us in just 3 days, and the AC has been blowing cold air all summer long. Again, it did take some haggling, but ultimately they did take care of us, so I figured that was the end of our slightly negative service experience. But I was wrong. Just a few months later, we got a letter from Volkswagen. They told us that there was a safety recall on our model of the ID.4, where apparently when the car has been drenched in water or something, the doors can just fly right open if you are cornering at low speeds for some reason. So I wanted to get that addressed right away. Again, this is a family car. I need it to be as safe as possible. So I reached out to Volkswagen again in order to schedule this safety recall service, but this time I called ahead to make sure that there would be a loaner made available for us, because at that point our son was just a few weeks old, and for those of you guys who are parents of young ones, you guys know that in those first few weeks there are a ton of appointments that you have to go to, so it was important for us to have a backup car available for those appointments. So this time when I called Volkswagen, they told me that they were doing away with loaners altogether, and I thought that was really strange. But that's kind of like a first world problem, so I just let that go, and instead I scheduled service with the dealership that had the earliest availability. But when I did that, I found that that dealership only had one service technician that was capable of doing this recall service, and that there were a ton of ID.4s just basically waiting in line in order to have this recall service applied to their car. So I was just like kind of seeing these problems sort of like stack up one after the other in terms of service. Fortunately, we did find a dealership that was able to get us in within about a week or so. So the recall has been done on our car. It's safe and sound again, so I'm not concerned about that anymore. What I am concerned about though is the service experience. I'm really hoping that it was just a two-time fluke, but what's more likely is that the service experience with the ID.4, probably with any Volkswagen, is just going to be a headache. Well, that's kind of a bummer, but I guess as long as nothing else really goes wrong with our car for the rest of our ownership, we won't have anything to worry about. But that's really all that there is to it. This car has performed great for us overall. It's super comfortable. We're really pleased with it. In fact, I'll be making a future video where I go over my top 5 favorite things about the Volkswagen ID.4, so be on the lookout for that video. But as far as this video, it's time to wrap it up. All right, you guys, I think that's going to do it for today. I got to get out of this heat. It is so hot. But before I go, I want to thank you guys for watching this far into the video. If you liked what you saw, leave me a like below and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos on our ID.4, as well as on my dream car, my Tesla Model 3 Performance Stealth Edition, and other various EVs. I'm super excited to bring you guys more videos on the family focus and affordability and practicality of electric vehicles, especially if you guys are a young family like us considering your first EV. Now, before I go, I want to thank you guys one more time so much for sticking around while I took a little bit of a break from YouTube. It means the world to me. All of your guys' well wishes and comments, you guys have no idea how much that means to me. And before I get too emotional on this video, I just want to tell you that's the reason I'm out here in this 111-degree Arizona summer heat talking to my phone camera about electric vehicles. It's because I love engaging with you guys and sharing ideas, concepts, insights about electric vehicles, sharing our passion for these EVs. That's all for today. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the camera before I start crying. Thanks again for watching. This has been Blake Check. That's a wrap.